just turn off your mic during the session. My name is Elias, and I'll be your host during the webinar for the next hour or so. And I'll just start by walking you through the agenda, which looks like this. In a minute, I will briefly introduce the BATS project for those of you who doesn't already know it. And then I'll give the words to the 5 speakers that we have brought with us today, that you can see here. Just please make sure to mute. So thanks. Yeah, then I'll give the words to the 5 speakers that you see here. First off is Milos, who will dive a bit deeper into the key challenges of active YRAM mobility. And then from Milos, we have 3 cases from our pilot cities, which is Hamburg, where Heike will explain how they work with protective elements. Then Simo will from Porvo will elaborate on their case. They are focusing on winter maintenance, and then Zane and Naomi from Umeå focusing on licensing. So these are the 3 pilot cities that we will showcase today. And just to return to the agenda, we will end the day off with the interactive Q&A, where you are more than welcome to pose any question you have. Yeah, we'll try to keep the questions towards the end of the webinar. So if you have any question, just write it in the chat while we speak, and remember to write the name of the question you want to answer, or the person you want to answer the question, so it's easier for us to keep track. So that's the agenda. Now I will just briefly introduce the BATS project. So BATS is an Interreg Baltic Sea project with the aim of developing new knowledge and tools to help monitoring active mobility during the colder period of the year. And the project in the project we are developing 2 overall solutions. We are developing a technical toolkit for city planners that will help them to diagnose specific challenges that relates to active mobility during the winter, to develop intervention strategies, and finally to monitor the progress of these interventions. So that's the technical toolkit. And besides that, we are also in BATS working on a citizen activation guide, which will supplement the technical toolkit and help the city planners working with winter maintenance, for example, to better understand and designing for the users they're working with, or that are using the area they plan. For example, by designing how to design campaigns to encourage active mobility. So that was briefly about the BATS project, and now I'll give the word to Milos, who will dive a bit more deep into the concept of year-round active mobility. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction. Welcome also from my side. So let's try to briefly set the stage for this whole concept of year-round active mobility and the underlying challenges that we are facing regarding promoting year-round active mobility. So I'm Milos, I'm from Aalto University, one of the partners in the BATS project as well. So words matter, at least in university, but also in practice. We oftentimes throw this word around, active mobility. It's always a question of what is the thing that we are talking about. So after some time of kind of using this word around, we finally have some consensus in the academic literature what it actually means. Yeah, so this is sustained physical exertion with some kind of intensity that actually contributes to the specific mobility effort. So that's sort of briefly as defined. What does that mean in practice? It means that this physical exertion, it's not just substantial, or there is some kind of intensity to it. That means bodily activation, muscle activation, all the other sort of psychological elements that play into that kind of travel experience. But it also that it actually has to contribute to your mobility effort. Yeah? This is why walking and cycling are, of course, an obvious examples of active mobility. But then you can always try to think about the opposite. Yeah. So there is some physical exertion when you're pressing the gas pedal in a car, but that doesn't necessarily directly contribute to the mobility effort. Or what I like to do in the metro here in Helsinki is I like to stand while in the metro car. So that's also some kind of physical exertion, but that doesn't necessarily, again, contribute directly to the mobility effort. So with that in mind, we of course have to also discuss this additional element to it, which is year-round, because still our mobility systems are designed in such a way that they primarily afford active traveling in, let's say, spring and summer months. And of course, there was many other things to that, which we will get into the later challenges. But the whole point here was that also how do we basically, especially if you think about the Baltic region that has, certain kind of weather conditions and light conditions as well in, well, basically half of the year. I think that's why we're sort of focusing also on this whole thing. But then for us to understand what we need to do, we need to understand what's the problem. Yeah, what are the challenges in front of us? So here's a sort of a short yet probably something we can also discuss, a list of key challenges in when we have to kind of promote year-round active mobility. So challenge number one, this at the end of the day is about behavioral change. People have to just move their everyday life in a different way than what they're doing now. So of course, when we think about active mobility in autumn winter period, especially in the Baltic region, we oftentimes think about slippery surfaces or cold feeling of cold while you're outside, or then eventually, of course, also darkness oftentimes leads to reduced visibility. So on the top of the surface, there are these sorts of challenges. But behind all of that are these three key questions when we have to deal with behavioral change. So one is habits, and understanding the whole notion how mobility is really a habitual behavior. Then number two is understanding really sort of the experiences that people have, meaning word experience in terms of, let's say, feeling, yeah, not like learning experience. And then on top of that, the last part is norms. Yeah, what do we think is normal in a society is very much connected to this behavioral change. So as part of this, we're relying on something that is called COM-B model, which is this image on the right, which at the center has this capability, opportunity, motivation. So that's the COM, yeah, part. And at the core of behavioral change, you have to sort of think about capabilities, opportunities, and motivation to enable that behavioral change. So if that's not enough as a challenge, we of course also know that for us to actually achieve behavioral change, we have to find the right kind of interventions. So that's the whole question of effectiveness, doing the right thing. That's of course the big question in urban planning more broadly. So that's one side of what we need to do in this second challenge, and of course on the other side it's this dimension of implementability. Yeah. So doing it rightly or just being able to do the right thing. as well matters. So these are sort of two fundamental trade-offs whenever we think about interventions. So despite what might seem like the way to do it, which is basically let's just do everything, all the possible things that are there on the shopping list of policy interventions. Good planning is about choosing the right kind of interventions that you can actually implement. So it's really about choosing the right thing, not just adding more of the things. And that leads us to a concept called policy package, where you really sort of have to think about what kind of interventions have synergy with each other versus what other interventions might be actually, in a sense, conflicting with themselves. And if you think about all the possible interventions that promote active mobility, like building different kinds of streets and so on the other side, you have to also think about should you also do something with the parking policy, for example, because a big part of this is also changing how do we sort of deal with the other side of the mobility system, which is usually motorized vehicles. So this will be a second challenge, and anyone who works in practice knows that it's easy to say package interventions, but then the third challenge is of course also what we're trying to also touch upon and work further, which is basically how do we have better planning processes, and eventually behind all of that, organizational culture. So this is sort of a snapshot of that comes from the concept of sustainable urban mobility plans. And even in this level, you can already sort of see an example of kind of paradigm change. Yeah, that SUMPs are at least a step away from traditional transport planning in terms of planning process and underlying assumptions of what planning is, which is the core idea at the center of the concept of organizational culture. So in our project, we of course have to lower this below the SUMP because sustainable SUMPs are really sort of strategic documents, while a lot of the interventions that we need to do around promoting active mobility are really sort of on the street level, on the detailed planning level, where the actual travel experience happens. This is something that you will also see in the later parts of the webinar today from different cities that are involved in this project. So those would be the three core challenges that we will be trying to address, and hopefully our good understanding of this problem will also lead to good solutions at the end of the day. I would say that's good engineering, at least from my perspective. So thank you for your attention, and I don't know if someone maybe has a quick question. Otherwise, we can also move forward.
Thank you, Milos. Yeah, if you have any questions, let's take them towards the end, and yeah, or just write them in the chat. I'll now give the words to Heike, that will present their. So they are a pilot city, as I said, and they will just present their case and what they're working on in Hamburg.
Yeah, thank you, Elias, and also thank you, Milos, for the introduction. My name is Heike Bunte. I'm working here also with Phoebe. She's also responsible for this project in the district of Altona, which is in Hamburg. Hamburg has roughly 1.9 million inhabitants. And as you can see from the tiny little map, Altona is the most western district out of 7 other ones within the city. So today, next slide, please. We are talking about our pilot site here in Altona and our main focus in terms of beds and our approach to increase safety for walking and cycling, or as Milos already mentioned, to overcome and to change habits, and that people cycle and walk also all year round. So here in Altona, the Reventlow Street is part of our velo route. We have a whole velo route system here in Altona, and the Reventlow Street is part of the Velo Route 1, which is a very important velo route for people coming from suburban areas into the city. So next slide, please. And apart from the fact that we focus on cycling, we also focus on walking. And here, especially if it comes to tunnels. It is said to be that Hamburg has more bridges than Venice in Italy. I'm not sure about it, but nevertheless, the tunnels are a crucial thing in the dark period of the year. And if you know, or if you're familiar with walking, it can be a tricky thing, or it can be very crucial to walk through tunnels. So we would like to test projectors, and Naomi will also later talk about projectors. So next slide, please. So sorry. Yeah, okay. So today we focus on protective elements here. This is a picture from the Reventlow Street, and as you see already, protective elements are not only here in Hamburg, but they are everywhere. So, and especially during the dark time, we want to know how visible they are. Can we maintain them? How do they increase cycling safety or not? So next slide, please. Again, here, this is the pilot site area, an intersection which is very vivid because buses are running there. It is a distributor road to the highway. We have a school nearby, and also a kind of a local shopping area. So this intersection is heavily used from different traffic users. We did a first small analysis before we started our construction work, and now it is ready, and I would like to give you some insights. Next slide, please. Here is one of the protective elements. We call them, or they are called, light buoys. And this one will be tested in the Reventlow Street, but also in other parts of Altona. This picture is just made 4-6 weeks after we finished construction works, and it might give already a first indicator that we have to keep a closer eye on maintenance, as you can see, or on dirt. So next slide, please. Here again, this is the second protective element we are testing, the so-called wall orca. The wall orca has a different shape, but you can also add elements on top of it. But at the moment, we focus on this flat layout of the protective element, because we also want to know if it's visible and which effects will occur. Next one. Apart from the most standard protective elements, the light buoy and the wall orca, we have also other protective elements here in Hamburg. These ones, you can just glue them on as an in-between safety appearance, so to say. They are a bit flexible, they can move. So we will see how durable they are and which effects they have on cycling safety as well. Next one. So This is a very flat protective element, so to say. It's just color. In Hamburg, our mission to fulfill the mobility change and to prioritize active mobility, we also, especially at intersections, make them so-called safer for cycling, because as you know, the most accidents happening for cyclists or towards cycling is at intersections. And one idea is here in Hamburg to use color to increase safety and to tell the car drivers to pay more attention. And we hope that color will change behavior. So we also look at this as one measurement, and we also need to take into account which effects have this also for pedestrians. Is it clearer now? Or is there more confusion because complexity increased because of all the colors and the markings? Next one. Actually, what you can see here is a very unique item. You can see in the middle where the two cyclists are a board in the middle of the road. This is also one thing we are testing only in the Reventlow Street. So this belongs also to the project, and it is a single attempt to see if cars are going over it, because a cycleway in the middle of the road is not a standard planning. Next one. In Hamburg, each intersection on certain roads will prioritize active mobility, and this supplement also shows that cyclists starting in front of cars and give them the whole range to stand in front of them, of the cars, so that they can start and ride and continue with their way in a smooth way. So also, again, we will keep an eye on this and on the effects of that. But so far, we have really good experiences with this. So next one. Yeah, so protective elements. The crucial question is now for cities, and from really a practical point of view, what are the effects, not only in terms of increasing safety, whether subjective, objective, or so to say perceived safety, but also for cities. It's very important to look at the maintenance costs, to look how useful is which kind of protective element, and last but not least, how many daily work do we have with that? So these are very practical questions, but also very important, especially if it comes to year-round active mobility, because maintenance, and in winter with all the leaves and the snow, we have an issue with that. Next one, please. As you can see from this picture, one attempt is that car drivers do not drive over the red surface. It sounds silly, but nevertheless, it happened in the past. This is why we build more and more protective elements before or after a cycleway, especially if it comes to intersections. Next one. Again here, turning right is a safety issue. So as you can see already here, after 4 to 6 weeks, it's quite dirty, and we are curious if this still helps and pays more attention to the whole situation or not. Next one. And this is just a picture from the autumn, and you can see a lot of leaves are on the surface, and cleaning machines are fine with the width of the cycle paths, and at the moment there are no problems. Of course, we did pre-measures and testings, but nevertheless, here we also need to make sure that a smooth process for autumn-winter maintenance is guaranteed. So, because if not, then we will have less cyclists using the path. Yeah, that's it from us here from Hamburg. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Heike. Yeah, we will continue with Simo from Porvoo municipality.
Yes, thank you, Elias. So my name is Simo Syrman, and I work as a project manager for the PATS project here in the city of Porvoo. And the topic of my presentation is our winter maintenance pilot, and citizen participation is kind of should play a very important role in the upgrading of our practices. So first, some quick facts about our city, Porvoo, or Borgå in Swedish, as we are a bilingual city. There's 1/3 of the population speaking Swedish in mother tongue. We are not a very big city, about 51,000 inhabitants, but we are located quite nicely near the city of Helsinki, basically on the eastern fringe of the Helsinki metropolitan region, something like 50 kilometers eastward from the city of Helsinki. But actually, we are way older than the city of Helsinki. Porvoo is the second oldest city in Finland, and we have something very rare in Finland, that we actually have an intact old city. You can see in the picture, and also in the old city there are walking and cycling paths. For example, this one very steep hill with cobblestones and lots of loose gravel on top of the cobblestone. I don't know if you dare to cycle down that road. I must confess that I didn't, and it was even scary enough to walk my bike down the road. Well, of course, the old city is a bit of an exception. Everybody walks there anyway, so I think most of the presentation now concentrates on the newer parts of the city. We have two pilots in Porvoo. One is a virtual reality model of a bridge. We are planning to build new bridge over the Porvoo River, and we are aiming for a very realistic simulation that could help decision support and also public participation. This pilot is very early stages, so kind of let's see how we end up there. But what I'm concentrating now is our winter maintenance pilot. We are developing winter maintenance practices. I think we are in a good position already. Bike paths are prioritized, but the kind of the procedures of winter maintenance and the processes are quite old, or they have been constant for many years or even decades. So there's lots of development happened in Finland also, and we are looking for good benchmarking examples. And also how we could utilize new technological solutions, but especially public participation. And one important aspect is that we need better quality criteria, because lots of the maintenance is outsourced, and we cannot basically call for better quality if we don't have a good criteria what the quality actually is. Here's a map of the main cycling network in Porvoo. Kind of the red roads are the main sections, and the blue ones are kind of contributing other cycling roads, and the dotted lines are the sections that are yet to be built, for example, the new bridge connection. But this map should be seen as kind of a goal. Most of those sections exist, but the quality is kind of it varies a lot. For example, here are some examples of a newer cycling infrastructure with wide lanes and separated walking paths, and these are going to be built more and more with the funds we have, but of course those funds are limited, so much of the cycling network looks more like this. So kind of basically pavements with integrated walking and not quite narrow lines, and kind of intersections are quite hard for cyclists, and one kind of challenge for winter maintenance is also present in this pair of pictures, because the upper one is kind of city street owned and maintained by the city, but the lower one is actually a state-owned road, and also the walking and cycling path is owned and maintained by the government. So in that sense, that adds another layer of difficulties. We have quite many of those roads currently. There are some plans to appropriate some centrally located sections to city streets, which of course helps in the complexity, but of course adds more pressure for the kind of limited funds we have for maintenance. So really some development and efficient methods are really needed. Currently, the whole process is kind of operated by the city, which follows weather forecasts and also have some help from some dedicated weather services. But he or she calls for action, both the city employees and city machinery, but also the outsourced ones. Bike paths are prioritized, and if there have been snowfall, for example, during the night, they should be cleared by 7 a.m. And the threshold for action is 2 centimeters of snow or slightly slippery conditions. And of course, the practices on those roads owned by the ELY Center, which is the state agency, they have different actors and procedures. So this intersection between the city and state-owned roads is one kind of emphasis of our study. The first part of our pilot has been a winter maintenance survey that was aimed for the citizens of Porvoo. We had some dedicated case routes that were quite centrally located, and these kind of posters were spread out on those case roads, for example, in the walls of the bus stops, and it was basically a mobile survey, both in Finnish and Swedish, and we have already some results from the study. Of course, this has been quite. We have had quite mild winter here in southern Finland, which has been good for winter maintenance, but actually bad for this study. So conditions have been maybe too easy. And kind of the results, I would analyze this that kind of overall the situation is quite good. There is no kind of some very obvious shortcomings in our work right now, but of course there's always something that can be improved. We asked for feedback from the case areas, but of course people tend to answer what was on their mind. And some, for example, in the western part where there's the concentration of responses, it's actually not about maintenance, but kind of lack of cycle and walking path. This is of course a crucial issue in itself. But some interesting findings from the survey. For example, in the upper picture, there were many responses that it was way too slippery, and kind of it's a connecting road to the city library and 2 different schools. So I don't know. This might be something to do that this is actually not a walking and cycling path. It's a road with a little or no motorized traffic, but it's not dedicated cycling or walking route. So it might play some kind of role in that shortcoming. And the lower picture, there is a kind of sudden point where kind of the road becomes more narrow, and with winter conditions, that might be kind of the snow covers the narrow path, and the cars coming from the direction of the where the picture was taken, they are coming from the countryside, so the speeds are quite fast, and kind of there have been some very dangerous situations with people walking on the pavement. So really some protective elements should be maybe added there. So what are the next steps? We are, or the consult is basically conducting benchmarking interviews in some selected Finnish cities, most of them a bit bigger than Porvoo. And then we are moving to interviewing the key actors and stakeholders in the Porvoo maintenance, and also conducting a citizen workshop with the results. And we should have new guidelines for winter maintenance by June, and kind of the next winter we are maybe piloting this kind of walking or cycling agent program that has been quite popular in many Finnish cities, and let's see how we can kind of apply that in the Porvoo context. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Simo. I'll now give the word to Umeå, where they focus on lightning. So yeah, you can take over the slides. Sorry, we can't hear you. Maybe you're
Oh, sorry,
muted,
I
or-
was muted. Sorry.
No
Hello,
worries.
I am Zane, and with me I have my colleague Naomi, and we are traffic planners in Umeå. And today we will be presenting the state of year-round active mobility in Umeå and our experience with our pilot projects. So currently in Umeå, we have implemented several initiatives to encourage year-round active mobility by improving pedestrian and cyclist roads and safety. This includes installing road projections like the one in this photo. These projections are installed on street lights, and they turn on with the street signs to ensure the path is lit up during the dark times of the day. We also have a pilot project called Winter Agents that help us get feedback on winter road maintenance and travel behavior, and a travel behavior survey conducted during the winter, and a free e-bike loan program as well. And since Umeå has long winters and we have snow here for a significant part of the year, promoting year-round active mobility is already an integrated approach in our work. This mindset is naturally embedded in everything we do, making it less of a hurdle for us compared to partners in regions without long winters. The light projections are also part of this, as they make it clear for pedestrians and cyclists, especially when regular signs are covered with snow, where they should walk and bike. At the same time, we operate within a politically governed organization, which influences how much we can focus we can place on year-round active mobility and how it is prioritized. And we must also balance various needs and collaborate with multiple departments, each with its own priorities and perspectives on what should take precedence. And additionally, the lack of communication and coordination between departments and stakeholders can also present a challenge when doing this. So through our pilot projects, we aim to increase year-round active mobility, as well as make pedestrian and cyclist routes clearer and safer. We have attempted this through, for instance, the light projections I mentioned. This is the project we have gotten the furthest in. These are installed in high traffic areas to visually separate pedestrian and cycling paths. And through our Winter Agents pilot, we get help by locals to gather real-time feedback from pedestrians and cyclists on winter road conditions. And through our e-bike loan program, we offer free e-loans free loans of e-bikes to encourage more residents to cycle in the winter as well. And we have promoted these initiatives through social media and have received positive public engagement so far.
Yes, and so to talk a bit about our achievements, we have just completed a winter-related travel behavior survey. And previously, when travel surveys have been conducted in Umeå, this has only been done during the bare ground season. So this is why this survey becomes extra relevant in relation to year-round active mobility and our ability to compare what travel habits look like during the winter versus spring and summer. We have also installed 2 projections, as Zane mentioned, and in Umeå, where darkness prevails for much of the year, these illuminated projections provide valuable guidance. Their contrast against the snow makes them effective and, ensuring better visibility and safer navigation for all road users. And another ongoing initiative is our pilot winter agents, where selected participants provide feedback on our winter road maintenance. And since winter conditions impact cycling and walking, we wanted to ensure that paths remain accessible. And so far, initial feedback has been collected. We have started the feedback collection, and we are receiving useful insights as of far. And this is mainly in regards to snow plowing. And so lastly, the e-bike loan program has been developed to encourage cycling year-round. And we have now secured partnerships with 3 bike shops in Umeå, and they will house 15 of the municipality's electric bikes. So to achieve these results, we have collaborated with our colleagues by, for instance, discussing solutions and identifying high impact locations for interventions. And for the light projections, we worked with the company that makes these so-called GoBo lights, along with our street lighting expert here in our municipality. And we have also planned to conduct surveys to see how our different interventions have been received and also to learn from them. So looking ahead, we are working to install more light projections and evaluating their impacts. We're also working on a major reconstruction project for a central road here in Umeå. And here we will be testing light projections instead of traditional zebra crossings. And we will also continue to gather feedback from the winter agents and analyze how effective or helpful this pilot has been and improve winter maintenance based on the user reports. And of course, our hope is that the e-bike loan project will start this spring, hopefully.
Thank you so much for all the presentations. I'll just take control, and now we will open the floor for questions. So please, if you have any questions, raise your hand by the small icon in the top of the Teams. I can also see, or just write it in the chat. You can see we already have a question from Paul. That's for Simo, I think. What does slightly slippery mean as a threshold for winter maintenance action in Porvoo? What metrics are used and how are they tracked? Maybe you can take that, Simo.
Yes, I think that mainly this kind of the officer on duty relies on the forecast from this. We have some couple of dedicated road weather centers operating in Finland that use kind of basically weather forecast to kind of predict how slippery the roads are. They have, I think they have some classification of kind of basically might be dangerous to highly dangerously slippery, and I think the officer on duty relies heavily on that forecast.
Thank you. And just to quickly follow up, so you're saying it's essentially like a prediction. It's not an actual fact of some physical hardware or human testing the slipperiness. It's in theory, this is how slippery we think it will be.
Basically, yes, when kind of planning kind of in advance action. But of course, those operators on the road, they of course make observations by themselves, and that affects also the process. But as we need to, for example, during nighttime before the morning traffic, we need to somehow think forward. So we need to rely on some forecast. Currently, there is no in the city of Porvoo. So in some highways, there are kind of remote weather stations, automatic weather stations, but in the city of Porvoo, I don't know if there's any.
Thank you. And just one last quick follow-up. So have you found the forecasts to be, accurate and useful, or is there any discrepancy from time to time?
My experience is that the kind of the maintenance people here in Porvoo have been quite satisfied with that. So that's not kind of problem in these procedures, I think.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks for the question. Then I can see we have a question from Klaus to Heike. How specific are the measures to active mobility in the winter month? I imagine that many of the measurements are now, measurements will have a positive impact on other seasons as well. So Heike.
Yes, actually, we have a lot of data and a lot of measurements, especially here in Altona, because the overall model share of cycling is 25% here in Altona. We know in the winter time that we have, of course, it depends on the winter, a drop of minus 50% of cycling. But overall, cycling is slightly increasing. This is what we measure also in the winter time. But of course, it depends on the winter, how tough or soft it is. Does this answer your question?
Yeah, so let's if it doesn't, if you have any follow-up question, Klaus, just please answer. But thank you a lot, Heike. Then we actually have another question also from Klaus, which is a more general question. How does one evaluate the impact of a measure according to season? So that's a general question, but I don't know if any of you want to try to answer that.
If you want, I can.
Yeah, please.
Actually, in terms of our walking strategy for the overall, for the whole city of Hamburg, this is also a topic which we discuss, but at the moment we discuss it internally, which means with all districts and the upper authorities and ministries. So it is on the agenda. Is also barrier-free access during winter times is a mega issue. But as I said, at the moment we work on it on an internal level. But of course, we also want to use bats to discuss it with additional groups, especially with elderlies in the city.
Yeah, if I might add that this impact evaluation or monitoring is actually one of the emphasis of this very project, that kind of it's as I think everybody understands it's relevant and should be done, but the ways are still in many cases kind of lacking, or it's more like hopeful thinking. So this kind of effective monitoring is one we should kind of develop during this very project.
Thanks a lot, Simon. Heike. I hope that was clear enough. Klaus, then we will jump to the next question, also from Paul. In the case of Umeå or even Porvoo 2, is there any chance or potential for bike or e-bike sharing occurring in the winter season too? And maybe Umeå can start, and then Simon can take over.
Yeah, well, that's the idea, that that they're going to be able to loan these bikes all year round. But we haven't actually started the pilot, so we won't actually know until it is winter. But yeah, they're going to be available for lending even during the winter.
And do you think these like new initiatives you did were sort of like the last barriers to making it feasible? Like why it didn't happen before, but now the pilot is happening because there's more sort of winter cycling infrastructure and maintenance.
Well,
So
we are working on infrastructure, but this specific pilot, it is an idea that we got from another Swedish city. That me and my colleagues decided that we wanted to try it here in Umeå.
Mhm. And which city was this, and how did it work for them?
It's called Sundsvall
Mhm.
in Sweden. And from when we talked to the people in Sundsvall, they at least say it's very successful and that the bikes are out all year round. And they are on their, I think, 3rd or 4th year of lending e-bikes.
And just to clarify, like this is not like a city bike share system. This is more of like a medium-term rental.
Yes, the latter.
So like, is it for the whole season you get a bike, or is it per
It's
week?
in periods, so 3 weeks. You can borrow the bike for 3 weeks.
Yeah, maybe it's the system that works better in a winter context than maybe like a city bike system. Nice. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe I just add that we do have a city bike system in Porvoo, but I know that there haven't been any discussion of kind of extending the period towards winter. Some cities in Finland do have plans, but we are, I think, quite far from that.
And as a quick follow-up, what do you think is the greatest barrier? Like what needs to change before Finnish cities can go to year-round bike sharing?
Well, I think my experience is that kind of once it's quite successful enough during the summertime, then there's more of an incentive to try out to kind of extending the period. But I think, for example, in Porvoo, we might actually have even less city bikes next summer, so it's a bit of an opposite direction.
Yeah. Is it maybe because a lot of Finns already own their own bike and the sharing is not as needed, or?
Well, I think there are some Finns online, some from other cities. They might add some good comments here, but I think it doesn't play that much of a role in this. That kind of those systems in some cities have been very successful, even though I think many of those using them own their bikes also. But it's a bit of a kind of expanding the public transportation network, I would say.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot for that question. And the answers. Heike, you also had a hand, so maybe that's not relevant anymore.
Now it's not relevant anymore because it was also in terms of sharing systems, bike sharing systems. I mean, you cannot compare our winter here in comparison to Porvoo or Umeå. Relatively, of course, here it's mega mild, it's mega soft, it's just gray, wet and slippery. From our experience, we also added to our sharing system cargo bikes and also e-bikes, which works quite well. And this is also why cycling overall and during the whole period here increases. So a constant sharing bike system, which is reliable, is really valuable to support and prioritize active mobility overall, I would say.
Yeah, thanks for that. Then we have a small questions from Ovaska, which is for Umeå. Is the material available in English or Swedish? We also work in winter agents in Tampere, and would be interested in to learn from other agent cities.
I think the material is in Swedish, but you're more than welcome to contact us here in Umeå so we can set up a meeting. Because I think it would be also interesting to hear from your experiences.
Yeah, thank you. Sounds good. So let's get back to this. Yeah, good.
Sounds good with some networking going on. Okay, and Milos have a hand, I can see.
Yeah, maybe to add my 2 cents on the evaluation, because that's of course a very big part of all of this. Our field is in a transition from what used to be classical civil engineering to something that should have always been multidisciplinary. So we come back to a lot of these questions when we measure things. Yeah, you can measure the friction of ice, and even those who work with ice will tell you that there are 7 different ways how you can measure the friction of ice. So even there are sort of the objective measurements are difficult. So, but when you have to make a choice as a planner or a practitioner, you always have to make choices. Yeah, what to do first. So I would rather ask for subjective. I would ask the people, not the ice. And what do you need to ask from people? Well, we come back to those 3 key concepts that I mentioned: experiences, habits, and norms. So does it feel good? Is it easy to habituate, to develop new habits? And lastly, does it feel normal? So if you have, like if you ask those questions, they lead you to have sort of different understanding of what's going on, and eventually maybe also to think about what kind of a different intervention would you have. So my 2 cents is that talk to people.
Thanks for that, Milos. Maybe we can just I'll take this last question. Slippery lines are a big problem, or maybe it's just a comment. Slippery lines are a big problem almost everywhere, I propose. We in Finland have icy slippery, and somewhere else you have dead leaves or city floods. All these are getting worse due to climate change. So that's thanks for that comment. I think we are reaching the end of the Q&A, but thanks a lot for the questions. And before we end the webinar, I'll just invite you to scan this QR code. It will take you to our website where you can sign up for our follower network, and if you wish. As a follower, you will receive our newsletter and other important news as a part of the batch project. If it doesn't work, or if you have any questions or anything, you feel free to just send me a mail. My email is eil@gate21.dk. Other than that, I will just say thank you a lot for joining. It was really a pleasure. Maybe important to say this is again only as there's a series of webinars, so we'll also promote the following webinars on our website, and we will also invite you through the email you signed up to this webinar. So if you're interested, we hope to see you again. Okay, thank you so much for joining. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.